Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the incredibly detailed rulebook that India's financial system uses to combat money laundering. We're going to get right into the nuts and bolts of the Prevention of Money Laundering Maintenance of Records rules, the regulations that literally spell out how to follow the money.
Money laundering is meant to be invisible. The entire point is to make dirty money look squeaky clean. But here's the thing, it's rarely a perfect crime. It almost always leaves some kind of trail. And these maintenance of records rules, well, they're basically a detailed map for authorities to follow that trail.
All right, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at what these rules really are. Then, we'll dive into the nitty-gritty, what records they require, how they identify who's behind the transactions, where all this information ends up, and maybe most importantly, why every single one of these details matters so much.
To really wrap our heads around this, we first need to understand a key difference. The difference between a law that says what to do and the rules that explain exactly how to do it. Think of it this way. The big law, the Prevention of Money Laundering Act of 2002, is the foundation. It's the one that says, hey, money laundering is illegal. It's the what. But these maintenance of records rules from 2005, that's the architect's blueprint. It's the incredibly detailed instruction manual that tells every bank exactly how to build a system to catch it.
So if these rules are the blueprints, what exactly do they tell the financial gatekeepers to write down? What are the specific clues they absolutely have to collect?
Okay, so at the very heart of this whole system is Rule 3. And this rule, well, it leaves absolutely nothing to chance. It is super specific about which transactions automatically trigger a mandatory record. This is what creates that crucial paper trail for investigators to follow, sometimes years after the fact.
The first big number you need to know, 10 lakh rupees. Any single cash transaction over this amount gets recorded, period. But the rule is even smarter than that. It also flags a series of smaller cash deals in a single month that add up to over 10 lakh. It's a clever way to catch people who try to fly under the radar by structuring their deposits.
And it's not just about cash inside the country. The rules are also keeping a very close eye on money moving across borders. Any wire transfer over 5 lakh rupees that either starts in India or ends in India has to be put on the books. It's a critical checkpoint for monitoring the flow of funds in and out of the national economy.
But it's not just about these hard and fast numbers. The rules also say you have to record anything that just seems suspicious, anything that smells fishy, even if the transaction doesn't go through. And it also puts a spotlight on high-value areas that are classic tools for money laundering, like big donations to nonprofits or buying expensive real estate.
And this right here, this shows you just how long-term this game is. The paper trail isn't just for now. Financial institutions have to hold on to all of these records, both the transaction details and the ID documents, for a full 5 years after someone closes their account. That means critical evidence is still available for investigators years down the line.
Okay, so recording the transaction, is one piece of the puzzle. But the other, arguably even more important piece, is knowing the who. Who exactly is making these transactions? And that's where this idea of client due diligence, or CDD, comes into play. You've probably heard of it as KYC, right? Know your customer. This is the absolute first line of defense. It's a required process designed to stop criminals from using fake or anonymous accounts to shuffle their money around. So, Rule 9 doesn't mess around. It lays out a super clear 4-step process. It's not enough to just get a name. An institution has to identify their client, verify that identity with official documents, dig deeper to find the real person who ultimately owns or controls the account, and also understand the purpose of the whole relationship. Now, this beneficial owner thing, this is huge. It's all about cutting through complicated layers like shell companies or trusts to find the real flesh and blood person who's actually pulling the strings. The rule is simple. If you own 10% or more of the company or entity, you're a beneficial owner, and they need to know who you are. And yeah, the rules get really specific about the kind of proof required. For an individual like you or me, we're talking about official IDs like an Aadhaar number or PAN card. But for a company, it's a whole different ballgame. They need to show their foundational documents, their certificate of incorporation, their articles of association, to prove they're legit and to show who has the authority to act on their behalf. So you've got all this data, right? All these records. Well, it's pretty useless if it just sits in a database gathering digital dust. This information is actively sent to a central authority that's built to connect the dots. Here's how it works. Every bank, every financial institution has to appoint a principal officer, a senior person who is responsible for this whole process. It's their job to package up all these records and send them to India's Financial Intelligence Unit, or FIU-IND. You can think of the FIU as the national brain of the whole operation, analyzing all this data.
And believe me, they don't get to take their time. Rule 8 puts everyone on a strict clock. Suspicious transactions, the most urgent red flags, have to be reported within just 7 working days. Other reports, for things like large cash deals or property sales, follow strict monthly or quarterly deadlines, ensuring a constant, fresh stream of intel to the FIU.
Now, this next part is maybe one of the most critical pieces of the entire puzzle. It's all top secret. The rules are crystal clear that the fact that a report has even been filed must be kept confidential. This is to prevent something called tipping off. You definitely don't want to alert a potential criminal that they're being watched.
Okay, let's zoom out and connect all these dots. We've gone through all these details, these specific rules, these numbers, but why? Why does all this painstaking work actually matter so much?
When you get right down to it, what these rules do is pretty amazing. They turn every single bank, broker, and financial institution into a defender on the front lines against financial crime. This mandatory paper trail creates a system with so much transparency that it leaves very few dark corners for illegal money to hide. The ultimate goal is to protect the integrity of our entire economy.
So this framework, this whole idea of a verifiable paper trail, has been a really powerful weapon. But as we all know, technology moves incredibly fast. We're living in an age of cryptocurrency and instant global transactions, and as our technology evolves, so do the methods of the criminals trying to exploit it. Which leaves us with a pretty big question to chew on. In this new digital era,